Hansel Morales, 12 years old, stared out his bedroom window in Ridgewood, Queens. The city below was loud, angry even, but inside his home, the noise was worse. His parents had separated months ago. They bounced between their mom's apartment and their dad's house, but their father's temper made life unpredictable. Tonight, Hansel and his 10-year-old sister Gretel chose something different. They chose escape. They'd packed quietly granola bars, juice boxes, a small flashlight, and their mom's old hiking compass. Gretel added her sketchbook. She said it helped her stay brave. They slipped out after midnight, walking fast but silent under the orange glow of streetlights. A bus waited on Myrtle Avenue, headed north toward upstate New York. Only until things cool off, Hansel promised his sister. Gretel didn't answer. She just leaned her head on his shoulder as the bus pulled away. The city faded behind them. Skyscrapers became small houses. Houses became wide fields. Fields became a wall of quiet, endless trees. By dawn, they stepped off the bus near Sterling Forest. The air smelled like pine needles and wet dirt. "People hike here all the time," Gretel said, studying a faded trail map. "Yeah," Hansel replied, "but people also get lost here all the time too." They followed a narrow trail into the woods. The deeper they went, the quieter everything became, as if the forest was listening. Hours passed. The trail markers disappeared. The path thinned. Their hope did too. "We're not lost," Hansel said confidently. But the shaking compass in his hand told a different story. Fog rolled in thick and ghostly, wrapping around the trees. Every direction now looked the same. "I don't like this place," Gretel whispered. "Stick with me," Hansel said. "We'll figure it out." They reached a strange clearing, empty, silent, too perfect. And that's when they saw it. A house stood at the far end of the clearing where no house should be. Its walls shimmered like candy. Gumdrops lined the path. The windows glowed warm and golden. "Is that real?" Gretel asked. "It can't be," Hansel answered, but his feet kept moving toward it. The air smelled like sugar and cinnamon. Gretel touched the porch railing. It felt smooth, almost too smooth, like hardened frosting. Hansel knocked. No answer. The door creaked open by itself. Warm light spilled out into the fog. "We shouldn't go in," Gretel whispered. "I know," Hansel said, but he stepped inside anyway. The hallway was lined with gingerbread-colored walls. Candy-like lanterns flickered overhead. Somewhere deeper inside, a kettle hissed. Someone was definitely home. "Hello?" Hansel called. "We're lost. We just need help." Footsteps approached. Slow, calm, deliberate. A tall woman appeared wearing a black shawl and a gentle smile. Her eyes were winter green and strangely sharp. "Oh, you poor children," she said softly. "You must be freezing. Come inside. You're safe now." Hansel and Gretel stepped fully into the house. The door shut behind them on its own. Miss Hallow led Hansel and Gretel into a kitchen that looked like a dream. Warm light glowed off polished wood and copper pans that hung from the ceiling. The air smelled like cinnamon, vanilla, and something else. Something strange. Something that didn't belong. A teapot whistled softly on the stove. Beside it, fresh cookies cooled on a tray, still steaming. "Sit," Miss Hallow said kindly. Her voice was gentle, but it seemed to echo in the room too long. Hansel and Gretel sat at a heavy wooden table. Cups of hot cocoa appeared in front of them. Gretel took a small sip. Her eyes closed. "This is the best cocoa I've ever had." Hansel didn't drink. He watched Miss Hallow closely. "You came from the city, didn't you?" she asked. Children carry their stories in their eyes. Hansel didn't respond. He didn't trust her, not yet. Miss Hallow smiled as if she already knew. "You don't have to speak. You're safe here." She placed a loaf of warm bread on the table. The top was brushed with honey and sprinkled with sugar. Gretel reached for a slice, but Hansel grabbed her wrist gently. "Wait," he whispered. He broke off a small piece and tossed it to the floor. Nothing happened. "It's bread, Hansel," Gretel said, "not poison." She ate. Miss Hallow looked amused. "Clever boy," she said softly. Hansel forced a smile. "Just careful." Outside the windows, the forest fog pressed against the glass like it wanted in. The house creaked, almost like it breathed. "Where do you sleep?" Miss Hallow asked. "Do you have a home?" Gretel lowered her eyes. Hansel answered for her. "We do. We're just taking a break." "From what?" Miss Hallow asked. The storm, Hansel replied. She nodded slowly. Yes, sometimes the storm begins at home. Her words made the room feel colder. The cocoa no longer seemed comforting, but dangerous. May we use the bathroom? Hansel asked. Second door on the left, she said. They stepped into the hallway. The door closed behind them. The hallway felt longer than before. The sugar glass lamps flickered like candle flames in the wind. That woman is weird, Gretel said quietly. Hansel nodded. We don't stay here tonight. They passed a room with the door cracked open. Inside was a nursery, old, dusty, and abandoned. A rocking horse moved by itself. Creak, creak. Gretel touched Hansel's arm. Let's go back to the kitchen. They turned around. The kitchen door was gone. In its place was more hallway. Endless hallway. Did we come from this way? Gretel asked. Hansel swallowed. The house changed. The walls seemed to lean in closer. Something whispered from behind a closed door. Hansel reached for the compass in his pocket. The needle spun wildly. A voice drifted through the hall. You said you wouldn't wander. It was Miss Hallow, but they couldn't tell where her voice was coming from. We're leaving, Hansel said. He grabbed Gretel's hand. They ran. Doors stretched past them like a maze. The house moaned around them, wood shifting, floors rumbling. Something was alive here. A door ahead flew open by itself. Inside was a staircase leading up. Go! Hansel yelled. They sprinted up the stairs as the door slammed behind them. A lock clicked in place. They were trapped again. And this time, the house was watching. Hansel and Gretel found themselves at the end of a long hallway. A small bedroom waited there like it had been expecting them. The door creaked open on its own. Gretel hesitated, but Hansel pulled her inside. The bedroom walls were covered in old wallpaper. Candy corn shapes floated under a fake harvest moon. Hansel tried the door again. It had locked by itself. Great, he muttered. This house hates us. Gretel walked to the window and pushed. It opened, fighting against her like it didn't want to. A rush of cold air blew in. Below was a sugar-glazed trellis leading to the ground. We can climb down, Gretel said. Hansel nodded. We're not staying another minute. Hansel slid the bolt lock into place to slow Miss Hallow down. Gretel grabbed the flashlight. They climbed out the window onto the roof. The wood felt soft, warm, almost alive. Don't look down, Hansel said. Too late, Gretel replied, gripping the roof edge. Below, fog swirled like ghost breath. The forest waited in silence. Then, thud, something slammed against the bedroom door. The bolt jumped in its hinges. Children, Miss Hallow called from inside. Running away is rude. Her voice wasn't kind anymore. It was cold, sharp, hungry. The bedroom door shook again. Crack. The bolt began to bend. Hurry, Hansel shouted. Gretel grabbed the trellis and began climbing down. Hansel followed close behind. Halfway down, the window above exploded open. Shards of sugar glass dropped past Hansel's head. Miss Hallow leaned out of the window. Her smile was gone. Her eyes glowed green in the fog. Come back, she said. Now. Hansel and Gretel jumped the last few feet, hitting the ground hard. Gretel stumbled, but stayed up. They ran into the trees. Branches whipped their faces like claws. The fog grew thicker. The compass in Hansel's pocket stayed still, frozen. We're getting out, Hansel said. Keep running. They pushed deeper into the woods. Away from the house. Away from Miss Hallow. Minutes turned to hours. The fog finally thinned. I think we're safe, Gretel said. Hansel finally allowed himself to breathe. He looked up and froze. The house was ahead of them again, closer than before. Its windows were lit now, glowing like hungry eyes. Smoke curled from the chimney. That's impossible, Gretel whispered. We ran in a straight line. Miss Hallow stepped out onto the porch, waiting for them. Her voice rolled across the clearing. You can't escape my home, she said softly. Not until I'm finished with you. The ground trembled beneath their feet. The forest leaned in. Hansel grabbed Gretel's hand. We try again. They ran. But the fog swallowed them, and the house swallowed the rest. Hansel and Gretel were back inside the house. The walls closed behind them like a mouth swallowing a secret. The room they were trapped in was darker now. The sugar glow of the house had turned sickly and dim. We're not letting her win, Hansel said. Gretel nodded. We make a plan. We escape. For real this time. They listened at the door. No footsteps. just a low, pulsing sound like a heartbeat in the walls. Hansel lifted the rug, a trapdoor. He pulled it open and a rush of cold air spilled out. Wooden steps led down into darkness. No choice, Hansel said. They climbed. The stairs creaked under their weight. The air smelled like burnt sugar. At the bottom was a long stone room. Ovens lined the walls. Dozens of them. Fire glowed inside each oven. But no one was baking here. These aren't for cookies, Gretel whispered. Her voice shook. A shadow moved at the far end of the room. Miss Hallow stepped out, holding a long iron staff. Her eyes burned with green fire. Her smile had vanished completely. I gave you warmth, she said. I gave you food. And still you run. You're a monster, Hansel said. Miss Hallow laughed. No, she said. I am hunger. A blast of wind slammed them back. The ovens roared hotter. Gretel grabbed Hansel's arm. Up there? A ladder led to a metal hatch in the ceiling, their only way out. They ran. Miss Hallow struck the ground with her staff. The floor cracked like breaking ice. Gretel climbed first. Hansel held the ladder steady. The hatch wouldn't open. Gretel pushed harder. Nothing. Miss Hallow was getting closer. Her shadow stretched across the room like a living thing. Hansel climbed up beside Gretel and shoved the hatch with his shoulder. It wouldn't budge. Move, Hansel said. He slammed it again. This time it opened. Daylight spilled in. Fresh air hit their faces like a miracle. Gretel climbed onto the roof. Hansel turned to follow, but Miss Hallow grabbed his ankle. Hansel slipped, hanging halfway out. The fire from the ovens roared beneath him. Gretel screamed and grabbed his hands. She held on, but Miss Hallow was pulling him down. You belong to the house now, Miss Hallow hissed. Hansel kicked, fighting to break free. It wasn't enough. Gretel's eyes filled with fire of her own. She looked at the chimney next to them, thick with smoke. She grabbed Hansel with one arm and a loose brick with the other. She hurled the brick down with everything she had. It struck Miss Hallow in the face. She screamed and fell back. Hansel scrambled out of the hatch. Gretel pulled him onto the roof. They ran across the shingles. The house shook violently beneath them. Jump, Hansel yelled. A tree leaned close enough to reach. They jumped. Branches tore at their clothes as they fell. They hit the ground hard but alive. They ran until the house was gone. Until the trees looked real again. Until they found a ranger station and safety. The nightmare was over, but the story was not forgotten. Somewhere deep in the woods of New York, a house made of candy waits for hungry children. And a witch with green eyes waits inside.